I was saying currently I serve right now on the City Council of City of Punta Gorda. District 1, which is the historic district, so it goes from Bayfront Hospital down to Fishman's Village. My family's been actually Punta Gorda since 1885. So one of my ancestors was the one who was over the survey team that brought the railroad from Bartow. So we've been here since before Charlotte County was a county, and so we've been here about 150 years. I lived overseas for about 20 years, opening businesses for American companies. I lived in Asia, and then I came back in 2015. I was asked to run in 16, and so I've been on city council since November of 16. I came to the conclusion to run for county commission because, one, in the city, find out that 91% of our workforce actually lives in the county, and that a lot of the solutions for the city's issues, but also the county's issues, I find that it's the counties where things to be done. I also see that for quite some time that we've not dealt with root problems, and I feel that I don't see Charlotte County as having systemic issues. A lot of places have like long-term, multi-generational problems, but I see for us, it's been a lack of desire to actually solve them. For example, we have thousands of platted lots. We're a rare county where we actually have so much land. We have the ability to actually house people. We have homeless people not because they're destitute, but they're homeless because there's actually there's no place for them to live. And I find that a lot of this, serving on city council, I've seen a lot of these issues we have are pretty much our voting. They're not economic issues. They have to do with density. They have to do with zoning. And so I find that being in this seat, having sit on that in incorporated Charlotte County, going to unincorporated Charlotte County, I think I can really bring a very unique perspective. Also, for the first time in 30 years, someone from council is running to go to the commission, where there's been this rift between the city and the county, and the city and the airport, and the city and the school board. And so I find that I have a pretty good relationship with people on most of these boards. That also, at this point, especially in this time right now, there's a whole lot of change and growth happening in Charlotte County, and I think that we need to be somewhat on the same page in terms of at least a vision of what's for our people. I also find that we are not reaching the expectations of our children. Our children, too many of them are leaving, in that they don't think they have a space here to grow. Pretty much a lot of them that grow up, they think that their purpose when they come out of high school is to basically be a server or basically be a CMA. And I find that our job as adults is that we need to actually create good opportunities for them to work and to grow their families here. Another thing I see here is that I just don't think they're reaching our full potential. Even with dealing with our elders, we have so many retirees here that came with strong skill sets, and they lived full careers, and we have this whole brain trust of people who lived their full lives, and we don't make use of it. My grandmother actually ran senior services for Charlotte County about 30 years ago, and at that time we used to have a lot more congregate meals, we used to have a lot more home visits, we had a lot more together with our elders. And I find that one thing even with our kids is really to be able to create those conditions to put our elders and our children back together, so we can actually really have examples for how they're supposed to live. And so basically where I'm here is that I have the knowledge of how to basically use the government mechanisms to really pretty much get out of the way for business, one, and then two, for the limited amount the government does have, to be able really to facilitate real solutions. So I'm here, and I just ask that you consider vote on August 23rd, and I'm here to answer any questions. Yes, sir.
Yes, you said that zoning wasn't an economic problem. The homelessness was not created mainly because of economics, but zoning plays a part in that. Could you explain exactly how zoning is causing that problem?
Example is that a lot of our people who should be in homes are living in apartments. And so the people who would be living in apartments have no place to go. I'll give you an example of the alternate route. You go to Lee County, you go to Suncoast Estates. Suncoast Estates, maybe people won't love all the aesthetics of it, but everyone has a home there. People in Suncoast Estates, as big or small as you want to live, you can live. In our case, we have, when I talk about density and zoning, is that we decide that we're going to have only single-family detached zoning everywhere. And we're not going to have much ability for people to actually do duplexes, to have tiny homes, to do those kind of things. I just said we don't have, and this is all a decision of our local boards. I mean, it's kind of like people get upset about a lot of things. 95% of our life is local government, and I just feel that this, especially being in the seat I'm in right now, I see very clearly a lot of this is caused by our votes, not caused by the other issues.
So not enough duplexes and condominiums and too many requirements that you have.
Yes.
A certain lot size in a single family home.
Yes,
Prices
yes.
it out of people's.
Yes.
Okay, I understand.
Yes, yes. Yes, sir.
So it sounds like you've been giving this a lot of thought. When did you decide to run? You gotta understand, for some people's perspective, it's a little suspect when you qualify on the last day of qualifying.
We've never heard of you before.
I didn't know who you were, all of a sudden you kind of just popped up out of nowhere and qualified, but it sounds like you've been giving this a lot of thought. Was there a strategy involved in that? You kind of got to explain to the room what your thought process was about when you decided to get in the race.
My plan actually was to run to be mayor this year. That was my plan because the dynamics of the board were changing, and
To be what? I'm sorry.
to be the mayor of Punta Gorda. That was actually what the trajectory of what I was going for, and ended up being that in the dynamics of the race for my seat, and then also looking at if I'm going to run a race and I'm going to actually apply myself in this manner, and then also looking at the last probably 3 meetings we had at City Council, I saw very clearly how much the county had to do with our decision making. For example, we're having this whole debate for downtown Punta Gorda has not had a downtown for almost 20 years. After Hurricane Charlie, City Council changed the zoning rules so that we lost 240 businesses. The reason why Northport had its boom is because the Bendersons actually offered basically an opportunity for people to go somewhere. We reduced our height and we reduced our density so people could not build back. So getting to this question of heights, getting to this question of parking, the only way out of our parking issue is basically if the county actually has put a parking garage there. And the parking garage was actually on the 1% tax, and they took it off because it wasn't important. And so this is one of those issues where I thought, this is an issue also dealing with things with the airport area, dealing with the Enterprise Park area. A lot of our future has to do with really is what's happening in that zone. I just feel that I can better facilitate really even for the city of Punta Gorda in the county commission seat. So I just came to the conclusion, yes, it was close, but I had been, people talked to me about this for a long time, but I came to the conclusion, especially with our last issues, especially dealing with our current zoning and density conversations, that our solution was actually going to be in the county, not in the city. So I just ended up determining that decision. Because I will tell you, I had looked actually at first, looking at when it was going to be an open seat, possibly running for the state house. That was where my brain actually was. And then when Spencer came into it, I was like, get out the way. And so this is how I apply myself. I love this area. We've been here for a very long time, and I see myself as being able to serve the people best in this role. Yes.
First off, you're talking about the housing and the apartments and the density and all that.
Yes.
So if you go, what's your definition of affordable housing and how do we attain that? And second of all, Charlotte County, it's all kind of plays together.
Yes.
The Charlotte County Commissioners are voting to double the impact fees for the county. Do you know where that money's going? I mean,
they're saying it's going to cover the impact of growth, but one thing with the impact fees, I'm saying those are the words. I have to look at the report of what they're saying is going to, because
You're running for commissioner, so you should know where.
No. They're saying it's going to the impact of growth. But what I'm saying is that when it comes to impact fees, I don't think we should have just across the board increase. I think things like we get to affordable housing, one of the big issues is that no matter what size you have, you're going to pay the same impact fees and the same connection fees. These things have to be delineated out. Now, getting to affordable housing, there actually is a technical definition in terms of like an AMI for what that is, but I think that we have varying degrees. You have your very low income, you have basically your medium based on your workforce, and you also have this middle place here. In our case right now, what would be, let's say, a house that someone could afford, let's say before all this madness was about $170,000. We've now moved into the 300s as a median up to the 400s, and so everything is out of line. So therefore, in this case right now, it would be good for us to be able to do one or two things. One, to have more multifamily so people at least can be in a place. But the second place, I think we need to actually have smaller density and be able to let people to really build what they want to build. Like we have mother-in-law suites, we have bungalow court, we have all these. There's something called the missing middle. There's a style of architecture which it has that Americana feel that everyone says they want, but pretty much it's illegal in most places, which is basically your duplex, your triplex, your quad, your bungalow court, your courtyard, all those things like that are your townhouses, row houses. These are things that we can do, which we have the ability to make these changes locally. We don't, and that's really the major issue we have is we have a widespread swath of single family detached. So we also have a situation now where a lot of people are pretty much investing in houses in great mass to use them as rentals, and so a lot of that, basically the market is now taking this out of the hands.
So where do you propose then, if you want to build these row houses, and these strip houses, and these vertical housing, where do you propose that go?
We have a lot of land, but what I'm saying,
Specifically, where do you propose it go?
all over Charlotte County, there's certain rural areas areas that are just agriculture and ranch, like you don't play too much with density, I think, out in those areas. But what you can do, this is something they do in Sarasota right now. Their habitat in Sarasota, what they do to not mess up a neighborhood, they'll look at the architecture of a certain neighborhood and they'll build, let's say, a house with more density of that same design. So you may have one house, the single family detached house, that looks a certain way. You make that same looking house but make it into a duplex. You can make that same looking house into a triplex. And so what you can do is actually keep the same feel. So I really would place them throughout. They don't have to necessarily be big masses. I'm not personally into big wide swaths of things. I think we can blend this into our existing neighborhoods right now.
Are you looking only to achieve this by allowing for people to use their property as they wish? Or like when I hear affordable housing, or is this something you would wish would be subsidized in any way by government funding?
No, I think people just use their property as they wish. That's a big issue.
So basically it would be up to the person who owned the land, and then there might be some, you're looking to limit the restrictions on property usage.
Without question. Yes.
What is your definition of liberty?
The ability to actually live your God-given purpose. I think everyone is given gifts and talents, and I think that basically being able to freely express that light which is inside you. That's what I see liberty as.
I have another question. This is interesting to me because I'm speculating, and I'm relatively new to the area. I've always gotten the impression that Punta Gorda had more restrictive rules generally because it's incorporated on top of the layers of county. How does the county limit Punta Gorda's choices? What have you seen that inhibited your vision for Punta Gorda?
Well, actually, Punta Gorda is actually limited. Punta Gorda is actually limited itself.
Okay.
A lot of the county not necessarily is doing stuff to Punta Gorda. Is that Punta Gorda's own local government has made decisions which have been, I would say, 1-year decisions rather than 20 or 50-year decisions. In the past, we used to think about what's the impact of this going to be on my grandchildren. Now is what is the impact on my 10 friends who I want to like me at the end of the meeting. That's sometimes what I feel like, some of how we vote. And so I think we have to just think a lot longer, and we have to be more responsible, because even when we're in these elected offices, we're only borrowing the chairs from people in the future. They're not our chairs to have. This is just a small period of time for us to be in that chair and do the best we can do. Yes.
Did you vote for or against the Punta Gorda City mask mandate?
Oh, at the beginning?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I did, because the fire chief came to me and told me that we had elders who were not going to the doctor, who were having strokes, heart attacks, things like that, and what could we do? And so what I did, and I was very happy when Governor DeSantis put his rule to supersede us, but yes, there was a moment to preserve the life of our older people. Yes, I did, because for our older people who were afraid, because the media so frightened them to death to go outside, that if they needed to have that to be able to go to the doctor to get treated for every other health condition.
So the media frightened them to death?
Oh, yes.
So naturally you...
No. What I had to do, I had to be responsible. When you're sitting in that chair, you can't just be wild. At that point, if I know for a fact that people were not dying in increased numbers of that thing that we were saying was there, but actually were dying of everything else they had, all of a sudden cancer didn't matter. All of a sudden diabetes didn't matter. All of a sudden strokes didn't matter. All of a sudden TB, all the stuff that people were encountering in their life didn't matter. We only had one disease, it seemed like, for 2 years. And so if our elders needed to have that piece of security, I felt that was responsible, but I was very happy when the governor did do preemption. I was extremely happy that we ended that early.
So why couldn't the elders just wear the mask themselves?
Right.
And this is me coming from a person who's actually lost family members and close people to me with COVID.
Yes.
Right.
So I'm just saying, it's like, if I'm scared, I need to stay at home. or I need to wear the mask. If I don't, especially when you have a 99.whatever% chance of living from this thing, it's just forcing everyone else to wear a mask. It doesn't seem right.
No, it was for this long. But the deal is, no. When the fire chief, no, I'm being real serious about this. I'm sorry. When I have older people that are actually dying of everything else except for COVID, and the thing which was asked of me by our leadership, that what we can do so our older people would actually go to the doctor, that was a move I had to make. Even though I did not believe in the process itself, I actually was infection control. I've worked with pandemic prevention before. I worked with bird flu and SARS. I know for a fact what was and what wasn't. But the question was not that. The perception is that they were more scared of this phantom than they were scared of the things that they had inside them. And so I had to do my responsible action was to actually protect the older people, because for them, they needed to feel safer to be able to go to the doctor.
So would it not be more responsible to make sure you educated people on what the disease was, and if that person is elderly and wanted to wear a mask, we could say, you could help give out masks to people. You could make the doctor say, okay, look, if you're going to come in here, it's like, we can give you a mask if you want to wear one, but you force everyone else to wear a mask. No,
this was actually not this year. It was the spring before.
It doesn't matter.
Right, no. I myself was not for it, but understanding when you're in that seat, you're responsible for the health of the population.
But you understand, if you're voting for the people, it doesn't matter if you don't believe for it, but you vote because you think that's what the people need. I'm
voting because our fire department, which is one of the best in the country, has daily interaction with our people. They go in there, they pretty much, they call the fire department for absolutely everything. Our fire department pretty much doesn't do fires. What they do is medic and paramedics. So our fire department pretty much provides medical service for our elders. We are the oldest per capita city in the United States of America. So from that perspective, it was responsible for us to do that for that moment. Again, like I said, when we were preempted, I was very happy we were preempted, but for that moment, in speaking to our senior staff who provide health care to our elders, this is not hypothetical, the reality of our elders need to get care, they said we needed this measure so they would feel comfortable enough to go to the doctor to get care, because they were so frightened by everything told to them that they were not going to the doctor to get treated for ailments which they really were dying from.
It's a hard-hitting deal, so be patient. You believe in free speech?
I do.
Okay. If so, how do you justify your recent comment on Facebook related to sign ordinance, and I quote, voting, okay, I don't like to be talked over.
There was a lady back there.
I don't care. So if so, how do you justify your recent comments on Facebook relating to the sign ordinance? And I quote, voting for this is going to take us to a crazy town, then you go and vote in favor of it.
You're talking about that before, all right? Let's tell you.
You said that on Facebook.
What was the wasn't? I didn't say anything on Facebook. But where is that quoted from? Where is that related to? What was the context?
Facebook.
No, but what was I didn't say anything on Facebook. I post nothing on Facebook. So what was the context of the statement?
Voting for this
sign ordinance.
All right. Let me tell you about. I'll explain the sign ordinance to y'all.
Okay, and that's the first question.
All right.
Second question.
Yes.
I hear you're a rhino.
Not at all. I'm pure 100% Republican. There's no rhino in there. 100%. Oh yes.
You're registered
forever. Yes. Yes, very much so.
You get money from Democrats?
No, I just do Republican only. I do only Republican. I know this for a fact. Yes.
Yes. Go ahead and answer your question.
All right. Our city, about 2.5 years ago, our city, our group, consensus, not including me, decided that they were going to go after realtor signs. It was because people didn't like the aesthetics of these open house signs in the neighborhood. And so at that point, they were instructed the staff to actually take off Fridays to be able to basically go on the weekends and do this code. So all of a sudden we had all these code violations off of basically harassing people. So our attorney basically said that we put ourselves in serious First Amendment issues.
You don't mind me interrupting you, but
yes, please.
I'm gonna have to call bullshit.
No. You have to. If you want to know the real context, what you want to do is take a limited piece of time and not actually hear the actual situation.
Let's let them answer the question and then just ask questions for now. Let's not argue.
Because the sign ordinance, which you know about, was actually it was supposed to be a remedy for a First Amendment violation that had occurred before. So let me explain this to you. Like I said, the city started to go after realtor signs. after open house signs, and it ended up being that the attorney determined that going after those signs actually was discriminating specifically against a group of people, limiting their speech. So then we had to create a content neutral code in order to try to address that. So he ended up basically taking a bullet point thing to address that, because we were in much more dangerous First Amendment trouble for what we had done at first. The issue with how he wrote this, the issues with this one was that later, several members of council started acting their commentary to it. When they started saying, I don't want to see this, I don't want to see that, and the code then all of a sudden was used this way. But I can't go too much into it because we're in litigation. I will tell you after the litigation, I'll make moves to address this, but I can't go too much in detail on this now because this is in court right now.
You can talk about open house signs and lawn signs and so forth. This was directed at one individual who was expressing his First Amendment right of free speech.
Andrew Sheets.
No, it wasn't.
Okay? He's in jail right now.
This wasn't. No, this was addressed. This was to ameliorate the open house sign by. No, you. This is a.
That might have been the start of it.
No, that was where it was. Now I don't know.
That's not where it is now.
No, it's not where it is now.
You are a politician, an elected politician,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
You have a constituency.
Yes.
When the constituency bitches, you get emails, phone calls, and whatever, you gotta stop this, whatever. Either you react to hold your constituency, do something, or you don't. I am telling you, this whole sign ordinance, you should give, just like the gentleman said, it is a bunch of BS, okay? Don't lie to the constituency, the people. I followed all the articles, okay? I've got 4 of them here, okay? The court hearings, all right?
But you missed the year and a half before that, which caused it. But but I'm with you. No, that is the cause of it. We were in First Amendment jail based on the realtor signs. That is actually what happened. But I do agree with your sentiment. I do, and that's what I'm saying. When we come out of court, I'll take moves to address it, but I can't go too much in detail on it because we're in litigation right now.
Listen, I don't mean to hammer you on this, but this
No,
is
I'm fine.
Caucus 2 now, okay?
Yes, please.
One with mask. I
Yes.
don't really believe in this, but the perception was X, so I voted for a mask mandate.
Yeah.
Now it's a sign ordinance. Well, I don't really believe in this, but the perception is X, so I vote for an anti-free speech sign ordinance. You're in a race with a popular incumbent who's not god-awful, and his other opponent, who is a phenomenal candidate, and you're 50-50 on these two issues on both sides of them. You're rolling down the center of the road, and you're getting run over.
No,
Right now, in my opinion, but
well, I agree, but
you contradicted yourself with your vote.
I agree with you, and with your sentiment, I actually agree. At that moment, we had to fix the first problem, but now that we know where this is going, especially now that there's been commentary added to that, I will take actions, move kind of a court to address this, but I can't go into it right now.
Well, my concern is what are you going to do in the county commission? The stakes get bigger, the budgets get bigger. Would you have voted for a mask mandate for the county commission? Because they didn't.
No, because the county. But the county situations didn't. We had a much more diverse. We had to age
that. It was as old as Punta Gorda.
No, it's not. No, it's not. No, it's not.
I just wanted to make the point. If you voted for a mask ordinance and your definition by your speech here tonight, the talk of liberty, is anti-that. Let me decide. I don't give a crap about my age or any pre-existing condition or how much. I want to be able to determine whether I have to.
I agree with you 100%. But but you're talking a year and a half after. At that moment, no. At that time,
From March on.
At that time, it was so new that people know. Me personally, I know that masks actually were points of contagion. But at that time, this thing, you're talking about something that was just a few months old. This was a big deal to people. Our staff who are in contact with more population.
I don't want you deciding for me.
Right, but we're talking about a year later reflection. No, at that moment.
What's your definition of a conviction, and what are your convictions?
Conviction is a deeply held truth. My conviction is I believe that everyone has a divine purpose. Why they live on earth is actually to share that, and my job in any role I do is to try to eliminate obstacles to people to express their full potential. That's what I'm here for.
Do you support the Second Amendment?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Stan?
He's got a.
What? Oh, I'm sorry. I'll get you next, Dave. Go ahead, Stan.
when you're elected, okay, how do you think you can move, okay, the zoning, the permitting, okay, and the other 4 commissioners? I watched their votes, okay, and the way it's processed. I used to work 6.5 years with the county. How do you propose to change that mentality? Go ahead, try to build the lot I have next door to my house, a tiny home. Can't do it. You can't do it, and you won't be able to get that code changed. It's permanent.
It depends how we do it, because the Florida zoning law is actually very specific. When we approve or disapprove something, it has to only be based on voting on development criteria. It's not based on consent. What happens is when people oftentimes vote by people being angry at something. That's actually against the law. The way Florida law is, it has to be competent, substantial evidence for those things. So, for example, if someone were to come in and say, I don't want this tiny home because it's going to lower my property value, unless there's actually a licensed appraiser who actually makes that statement and files that, it doesn't exist. So even though someone says those words to us, it does not count. All these oppositions to any of these affordable housing solutions, when people oppose them, because oftentimes people get weak to opposing them, it's just really based on not following the law. What I would do is really hold us to account that Florida development law is very clear. There are usually 4 or 5 development criteria in a quasi-judicial hearing. Either the applicant meets or doesn't meet that, and that's it. It's not, we don't have anything else to say besides that.
You have minimum square footage. A tiny home is way below the minimum square footage to build on a 1/4 acre lot, of which there was 10,000, I think, originally platted or over. And a lot of them were undeveloped, okay?
Yes.
I live in an area, if you go a mile, okay, street after street, just undeveloped, okay? Pepper plant growing everywhere, and grass growing up through the streets, the paved streets. You're not, I don't know, I ask you how you think you can change. It's not Florida, it is Charlotte County. Their zoning, their permitting, okay, building permitting, is horrendous. I had a vendor in yesterday, okay?
Yes.
And she said, no, we gotta do this, we gotta do this. I know. She said, a salesperson, we are the toughest county, okay, to do anything. Replace a window, okay? Build a shed more than 100 square feet. You gotta put out, go get a water heater. You need a licensed electrician, licensed plumber, okay? And the permit, which is over $100.
Or you need to know the rules. That's why it's not affordable.
So my point is, I don't know how.
All right, one way, I've lived in other places where you can actually do a concept I want to bring up. It's called a one-stop shop when it comes to permitting. One reason why it's so hard here is that you have a lot of redundancy where you're running around 1,000 places. If we had one building where you had a person from each of the agencies which do all the permitting, and you basically just went to each of those people and just get your stamps. I've seen this in practice before, and what happens is you have people running around spending all this money. We could really have one place where you come, your sheet says you have to have approval from fire, from public works, from utilities, from public health, and you just knock it out right there. And then that's one thing I would do. I think it would save money, and I think also it would make it much more streamlined and straightforward.
Dave County Senior, you had a question?
Yeah, it's more of a statement to follow up on your mask mandate vote.
Yes.
I have a daughter-in-law that had to go in for some blood draws.
Yes.
City of California. And with that mask mandate, and she has an exemption, a physical medical exemption. She cannot wear a mask. It creates problems. They would not override that, kicked her out, actually called the police on her. And now she is
blacklisted.
She is unable to see any of the medical community in the area because she's been placed on a list that does not permit her to get services. So, when you get to convictions, you say, I don't believe in the mask, but I'll still vote for it. I have issue with that.
Like I said,
unintended consequences.
I know, and I agree with you. I mean, like I said, in my prior work, I worked in infection control, and in the masks themselves actually were points of contagion. At that moment, this thing being a few months old, the media had people so crazy that we had people who were dying of preventable diseases, and it just, at that moment, we had about 2 months, we made a determination that to preserve our elders that we had to do this, and so that's what I did. And that's what I had to do.
Got something, Jim?
Yeah, I'm changing the subject. everybody in this room's Republican, conservative, libertarian. That's the way this club leads, okay?
Yes.
We all believe in smaller government.
Yes.
What are you gonna do to shrink the size of Charlotte County government?
Very good. Well, example, like what I just stated right there, we, as opposed to having all these bloated agencies, you could actually streamline these into one area. Like I said, you can do a one-stop shop for permitting.
Takes all the agencies and sticks them in one place. It doesn't necessarily cut it.
No, it does cut it, because if you end up having one person whose job is to approve permits for this agency, example, one person for fire department, that's what their job is. They can address it. They do inspections. They run back.
So
Everything's
you take
faster.
5 people, put it into one person, put it in one spot, and cut 4 people loose.
You can do that. Yes, and yes, that's what you do.
Carl?
I just got one thing. Did you get endorsed by the Democrat Party?
No,
Okay.
no, I had nothing to do with the Democrat Party.
You sure?
I'm 100% sure.
Would you accept an endorsement if they offered it?
I would not want an endorsement from the Democrat Party.
That's a different answer.
No.
He asked, would you accept it? Not
No, you can't accept. No, I don't want. No.
Anybody else? I got one. How can you justify trespassing citizens for documenting what public officials do in public buildings, even though our district appeal courts and even our own state attorney say different? And you guys voted for that in a kind of a secret meeting. You don't know.
No, explain what you're saying.
If a citizen goes into
'Cause
any
we
of your
never-
buildings
we only had-
with a camera,
with a shade
they get
meeting.
trespassed, and the first 2 got trespassed for life. They were doing interviews with Howard Koenig, and they embarrassed him. There was an emergency meeting, they didn't even know it was illegal, and they trespassed both of them for life from the city hall for taking pictures and doing an interview with Koenig. How can you justify that with the Constitution?
Well, one, we didn't have a secret meeting. Only secret meetings we are allowed to have by law.
It was an
deal
emergency
with it.
meeting. It was an emergency meeting, so no one knew it happened, and they didn't, because it was 2 days later they got trespassed for life.
In that case, with that, the staff felt very threatened, and at that moment, no, there were staff that actually left employment because of that situation.
Because of someone taking pictures.
No, it wasn't.
No threats.
No. How the approach was done, the staff did feel threatened. I don't know the very details on everything that happened in that case, but the
You voted for the law.
the staff did feel very. It wasn't the law. It was a case that they
It's an
say.
ordinance.
It's an ordinance that.
We
on
can't
those-
film anything in your public buildings. We can't. We can't film anything.
No, that's not what the ordinance
That's
was.
what the ordinance
It wasn't to
says.
not.
Sure it is.
It was
You're
not. It was the
trespassing.
staff was being harassed, and that's what that was.
And the ordinance says nobody can take pictures. It's a wide sweeping law that was put in place against 2 gentlemen, and one of them was a minister, okay? So there was no threats, but I don't want to argue with you. I want to know, how can you justify anything like that with the Constitution when Smith versus City of Cummings specifically says that you can go in and film public officials? And police officers who came in and trespassed them, they were filming them at the time and they get trespassed, and they were filming public officials. How can you justify it with the Constitution, not with what people did or what people thought or felt?
No.
But you take an oath to the Constitution.
I do, but if the same thing, what we're saying is that if someone's being threatened, like if someone to threaten you, you wouldn't say the Constitution should protect
But there
them
was
from
no
threatening you.
threat.
But there
It was
was.
all videotaped, it was all on video.
But-
No threat.
all this
Zero.
It's on video.
It's all on video. You know, the cameras don't lie. There was no threat.
We lost staff over that. People felt threatened. They did. No, they did. No, staff left the city.
It might be worth looking into that ordinance then, because
I
it is
will.
forbid photography.
I will.
Because
You believe in all this woke politics?
Not at
Because
all.
it seems like, it's not like it used to be. You guys find a lot of excuses not to do your job. You know, I'm afraid of this lady, I'm afraid of the press, I'm afraid of somebody taking pictures. You know, it kind of overblows shit. You know what I mean? Don't you think?
I do. I definitely think so.
You need to toughen up. You're in a tough deal. It's politics, isn't it easy? You choose to run for this and you're asking for a vote.
Oh, I agree, but he's talking about
Don't run
staff.
away from the
No,
confrontation.
he's
Run towards it.
exactly. Elected officials definitely run towards that, but he's talking about staff. No, he's talking about
Blame a lot
staff.
of people
He's
for
talking
a lot
about
of
he's
things.
talking about
Nobody
staff.
accepts
He's not talking
responsibility.
about elected official. You choose to stand in front of this, but if a staff member feels threatened, they feel threatened. That's just where it is.
This is a church guy.
No, I don't. What I know is that staff felt threatened, and they actually left the city. What I know is the reality is people felt, no, I don't know all that. What I do know is that staff felt threatened by the encounters.
What staff?
The staff at the
Ladies
city,
taking notes?
no, the staff at the city hall.
But shouldn't you have evidence for a wide sweeping law like that? Clear
Yeah.
evidence of a threat on video.
It was
There wasn't
it was
any.
enough of a threat that people actually left their jobs. Yes. No, they're no longer working there.
Then they need
They
to
felt that
toughen up.
threatened. No, but they weren't elected
Good job,
officials.
makes a lot of money,
They
great benefits.
they weren't
There's already crime for
Put
that.
bands on.
they were not elected officials.
I'm unclear on this statute. I mean, there's an ordinance that says that I'm not allowed to take a picture inside City Hall.
Yes,
under any
you can't put,
circumstances.
yes.
I have to look into this.
But that's an important thing.
No,
That ordinance get passed?
I have to look at this. I have to look into
Well, it would seem
this.
to me that before you would vote for that ordinance, that you would want to make sure that the ordinance was constitutional and make sure there's a good reason for it. But you're basing it on some staff reports that you received and the fact they left the city. But it doesn't appear that you ever watched the videos that were actually taken to see if there was actually credible threats.
What happened was the staff themselves said they were threatened. And no, I'm being real serious. We were going off of anyone who has employees, you protect your employees.
Well, sure, but even if that's the case and they
Yeah,
weren't.
but those employees are also citizens.
But as a
The solution
supervisor,
doesn't
you have
appear
to
to
understand what is a threat and
prohibit
what's.
photographs. I mean, that
Somebody
seems like
should
an
not
obvious
know.
behavior.
Look, if they committed a crime and they're threatening someone, this is a crime already. You don't need to ban photography and filming
Yeah.
in City Hall to
No,
prevent an assault.
I'm going to look into this. No, this
That's worth looking.
Thank
You
you,
have a chance
thank
to
you.
look into it, you were on the committee.
No, at that moment, people felt threatened and they left the city. I will
already a
look into
crime.
this.
That was already a
You
crime.
guys have great jobs, you make a great retirement, you got a great pension, all of that?
No, not in the city anymore. Not since after Charlie. Everything's been called. Truth be told, the city and the county are very different. The city and the county, the treatment is very different.
One of your opponents.
No problem.
But getting into this conversation about the employees feeling threatened by being videotaped, how familiar are you with what went on in the ranchettes and the abandonment by the current Board of Commissioners of Charlotte County?
I've heard some things on different sides, but you can explain to me. I would like to hear.
Read the ordinance
Yes.
of disbanding our community. They actually abandoned 38 miles of roads, 3,800 acres, and nearly 2,800 residents because, and I quote, the staff felt threatened. Now, if you go into the county's own hiring requirements and read through every job description for every individual within the county, and I also believe you guys have almost an identical one in the city of Punta Gorda, it said any employees that interface with the public may be subject to abuse, verbal, physical, up to and including assault. That is part of their job description.
And you
To
have
deal
to
with the
sign
public.
it and accept it.
And that is
I
what
wasn't
every
before you.
employee who gets hired in the county, and I know the city of Punta Gorda's.
I have to verify that. That sounds a bit extreme. No, I have to verify that. That sounds a bit much. We're talking about
You can actually
a
pull up the
group of,
job description on Charlotte County's website.
but this is not Charlotte County. It's Punta
Well, you're
Gorda.
running for Charlotte County.
Right, but we're
so
talking about city of Punta
on
Gorda.
the same token,
Yeah.
that you're now defending violating others' rights based on a few employees that were not elected officials. The same thing happened to an entire community when it was actually part of their job description and nobody was actually threatened.
Well, but that's the difference.
How would you handle that in that situation?
I
Is
would.
that the easy
No,
scapegoat?
I would not. No, I would definitely not. No.
Because they do take that situation very personally.
I would
because
not.
I live in the ranch.
No, I would not. No, but what we're talking about here has nothing to do with this.
It's very
No,
similar.
they're not. You're
You're wanting a
no.
commissioner's job.
No, they're not
These
similar.
are questions.
They're not similar. No,
And they
they're not
are
similar.
similar.
At the county commission, you have armed people there. Who? Yes, you have armed people on the first floor.
One guy.
Yeah, no, there are other people there. They have no. My point being is that you have a situation where at least there's the perception of protection for employees who work in the Murdoch. No, being real about this. When you have people that are coming in a manner in which the employees felt threatened, now there's more security measures, so it wouldn't be probably justified to have the same type of thoughts now. But at that period of time, we had employees that felt very vulnerable and threatened, and it's nothing to do with like what you're saying. This was a situation where these women did not sign up for that. What they signed up was just to do their job at their desk. They didn't sign up to be harassed, and so that's where this came down to. They're not similar. They're not similar. No one deserves to be abused, period.
One last question on that.
Yes.
The state attorney specifically said when Punta Gorda tried to do a felony wiretap on one of these guys, they said it's a constitutionally protected right. The state attorney, I think he committed suicide or something, but before that, that's what he said. And all of that's everywhere. When I got trespassed, I argued all that stuff. It didn't matter. I didn't get trespassed from Punta Gorda. I got trespassed from the administration building because they have a similar rule. And all I was doing was documenting.
I wasn't in office during that state attorney. I don't even know who that was. No,
You
because
were in office when they did
I've been
that.
under Amira Fox, not under that guy you're talking about. I don't know who
No,
you're
he
talking
was
about.
with her. He was one of her people. Because they sent it to them and he sent it back and he said and your lawyer said, I don't like that. We're doing it a different way. Just so you know.
Thank you. No, I will look into all these things. I appreciate you. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, but I just have to say, listening to you speak, I'm hearing you answer these questions, and your answer is always at that time, or, you know, in that time frame. Back then, like, you would do it different. Now, almost every incident that people are bringing up, you're answering, well, you know, at that time I did what I thought was right, versus I don't hear the reasoning behind it. I don't hear the justification of decisions that you would or wouldn't have made, just that at that time it seemed like the right decision.
Yeah, hindsight is 20/20. One can see very clearly when you go way into the future and look back, everything looks very, very clear. But when you're in the moment with people who are real living beings, sometimes you have to make hard decisions.
But we need to vote for someone that can make those hard decisions in the real moment.
Right, in dealing with real people.
5 months later, when we ask them, well, why did you do that? Well, at that time.
Yes, and that is why, no, but everyone does stuff at that time. There's no one who's doing stuff based on ivory tower place here. They're doing it dealing with real human beings who are impacted by real things. And so these are real people who are impacted by real things. I got to deal with real people dealing with real things. I can't just have ideological thing. I have to deal with real people. I'm dealing with real people. I got to protect real people. That's what I'm doing.
Well, he asked you a real question
Yes.
about a whole community of people.
I agree, and I actually definitely want to look more into this, but I'm talking about, that has nothing to do with what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about
So
actual
really
people.
You're not too studied up on what you're getting into.
I am. I've heard two sides of this situation. What I'm talking about
I
is
lived
this.
there too, by the
I'm
way.
talking about, what I'm talking about here is you have men coming into the personal space of women in a small office. They felt threatened,
Well, I'm talking about
period.
this man.
Right, but I was not involved in that. What I'm talking about, I'm talking about is, no, I'm talking about what I'm talking about. And I don't know any woman who wants to be abused or threatened. I don't know any.
But there has to be proof of that. There has
No,
to be
they
evidence.
would not have quit their jobs. They didn't feel threatened. No.
What about it's that machine they had? That's what Koenig called it. That machine, they were afraid of that machine.
But what I'm talking about, anyone who has any employees, you protect your employees. That's what you do.
But where's the
public
crime?
employees.
Were they charged with a crime? Were they charged with a crime?
Just Punta Gorda.
Convicted of a crime?
Just Punta Gorda trespassed them. No, if they came back, they would be arrested. For
So if they came back, they were
life.
charged with a crime, with
For life,
trespassing?
yes. Any other questions? A few more? No? I'm sure you're ready to get out of here.
It's all good.
Anybody else have any more questions? Okay, I guess that's it. Well, thank you.
Well, thank you so
for
much.
Getting in the hot seat.
It's all good. I appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you.